Welcome back to the WXOU Sports YouTube page. I'm the sports director, Harjun, Buttar, and we are joined by Buru Naivalurua. Thank you so much for joining us, Buru.
Thanks for having me.
So one of the things I asked all of the basketball players is one thing that they commonly worked on in the offseason is kind of perfecting or just playing their game. What do you consider, quote-unquote, your game?
My game? I mean, honestly, right now, a lot of it is rebounding, playing inside the paint, the occasional turnaround jump shot. Yeah, that's what I do a lot.
Cool. You've talked about, how you came to play basketball and how you loved basketball growing up in Australia, but I wanted to kind of get your perspective on how is basketball different in Australia versus how it is here?
Just in Australia, it's a lot more set oriented as far as like developmental stages and just all throughout. Here it's, especially in high school and AAU, from what I've heard at least, it's a lot more on individual talent and skill than what is usually done in Australia, and there's more of an emphasis on like having people run through the sets, having a point guard that knows all the sets and everything like that, and that's usually what get you on the court in Australia, as opposed to just being supremely talented.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You talked about your path from Australia to Garden City, and that seemed like it was a whole process. You went from one side of the country to the other side of the country and then back. But I kind of wanted to know what the process was like, while you were in Garden City. Like, how was playing in Kansas? How was playing JUCO basketball? And how is it different from playing here at Oakland?
JUCO basketball was rough, honestly. The facilities were not as good. The accommodations not as good. Nothing really is as good as we have it here. But I just say, like, the competition was definitely easier in the sense that obviously everyone at the JUCO level isn't a Division I talent.
Mm-hmm.
So there were some teams we played that were really good and other teams that were not as good. So you just have those ups and downs. The practice was way different as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely harder on the body.
Yeah.
I guess we drove everywhere, and we'd often drive in the same day of a game. Like, the only time we'd stay overnight is if we're traveling 5-6 hours.
Wow.
If it was a 4-hour drive, then we'd just drive down there, play the game, turn around, come back. So it's pretty tough.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So you can take from, at any point in your basketball career, your time in Australia, your time at Garden City, or your time here at Oakland. Who is the most difficult player you've ever played against?
The most difficult player I ever played against? Played against a lot of guys that are really good. I guess one guy the two guys here at Oakland are probably like 3 guys here at Oakland are probably like Trey, Chris, and Rocket. I played 1-on-1 with Rocket one time. It did not end well for me. She was the only time we played, so I'm going to have to get him back later. But those 3 guys have been the most difficult here. And in JUCO, we played a guy named Jason Edwards that gave us 32 games in a row.
Oh, my gosh.
So he was pretty good there. And then back home in Sydney, there's a guy named Bwali Bales that I played against coming up.
Yeah.
And he's a pro in the NBL now.
Wow.
He represented Australia in the under-17s and under-21s.
Oh, my God, yeah.
He was really good. He's probably the hardest guy I've had to play against when I was back home.
You can say the word NBA and the conversation just ends there. I mean, pretty much that would be the hardest player anyone's ever played against. Last question. Pretty much you've been Mr. Consistent this season. You've had this pretty much the same stat line ever since you started playing here at Oakland. A lot of players, when they come to play for a new program, they have a little bit of a learning curve. What do you think has contributed to the fact that it's kind of been you hitting the ground running, and you've been pretty consistent. You've been pretty solid up to this point.
I just have a great team around. They make it easy for me. Obviously, we play with Trey and Blake, two guys that are all-conference level guys, and probably will end up on the all-conference teams. And then Chris is another guy of that caliber of player as well. So, you know, when you're surrounded by a bunch of talent, it takes a lot of the pressure off you. And then our jobs are pretty clearly defined by campy, so it's not really much thought goes into when I'm on the court. I just get on the court, know what I have to do, and go out and do it.
Cool. Appreciate you spending some time with us, Buru.
Yeah, cheers.
You can check out this interview on the WXOU Sports YouTube page. Thanks for listening.